Matthew 27. Now, this is a very long one. And this. All right. We're getting close to the end. Next episode is the end of Matthew. And then I'm going to be taking a break. Jesus delivered to Pilate. When morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. And they bound him and led him away to be delivered over to Pilate the governor. Judas hangs himself. Then, when Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he changed his mind and brought back 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders, saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. And they said to him, What is that to us? See to it yourself. And throwing down the pieces of silver into the temple, he departed and went and hanged himself. But the chief priest, taking the pieces of silver, said, It is not lawful for us to put into the treasury, since it is blood money. So they took counsel and brought with them the potter's field as a burial place for strangers. Therefore that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken by the prophet Jeremiah, saying, And they took the pieces of silver and the price of him who at a price had been set by some of the swords of Israel, and they gave for them the potter's field, as the Lord directed me. So Judas hangs himself. So he changed his mind, and he was trying to return the money, but they're like, we can't take it. It's blood money. And Judas, ends up hanging himself because of what he's done, and they bought a potter's field as a burial place using the money. And Jeremiah 19, 1 through 13 was fulfilled. Jesus before Pilate. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, Are you the king of the Jews? And Jesus said, You have said so. But when he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate said to him, Do you not hear how many things they testify against you? But he gave him no answer, not even a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. The crowd chooses Barabbas. Now at the feast, the governor, who was accustomed to release for the crowd any one prisoner whom they wanted, and they had then a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when they had gathered, Pilate said to them, Whom do you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Christ? For he knew that it was out of envy that they had delivered him up. Besides, while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, Have nothing to do with that righteous man, for I have suffered much because of him today, in a dream. Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor again said to them, Which of the two do you want me to release for you? And they said, Barabbas. Pilate said to them, Then what shall I do with Jesus who is called the Christ? And they all said, Let him be crucified. And he said, What evil has he done? But they shouted all the more, Let him be crucified. So Pilate's wife had actually dreams about Jesus, and she knew that Jesus was righteous. Also, Barabbas was a well-known criminal. He was a thief and he was a murderer, but the people were so filled with emotion that they didn't even give Pilate an answer. He said, Why? And they just said, Crucify him. Pilate delivers Jesus to be crucified. So when Pilate saw that he was gaining nothing, but rather than a riot was beginning, he took water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves. And all the people answered, His blood be on us and our children. Then he released for them Barabbas, and having scourged Jesus, delivered him to be crucified. So Pilate was saying, I'm innocent. This is not my fault. And the people said, His blood's upon us and our children, which was crazy. Jesus is mocked. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole battalion before him, and they stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and twisting together a crown of thorns, they put it on his head and put a reed in his right hand. And kneeling before him, they mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! And they spit on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. And when they had mocked him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him and led him away to be crucified. The crucifixion. As they went out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by the name. they compelled this man to carry his cross, and when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull, they offered him wine to drink mixed with gall. But when he tasted, he would not drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his garments among them by casting lots. Then they sat down and kept watch over him there. And over his head they put on the charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then 2 robbers were crucified with him, one to the right and one to the left. And those who passed by derided him, wagging their heads and saying, "You who destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." So also the chief priests with the scribes and the elders mocked him, saying, "He saved others, he cannot save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now, if he desires him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" And the robbers who were crucified with him also reviled him in the same way. So Simon of Cyrene carried Jesus' cross because Jesus was beaten too badly. And also, Jesus was crucified next to 2 robbers, not other robbers. And this shows that they really hated the idea of Jesus. They thought it was blasphemy, but they put him next to robbers. The death of Jesus. Now, from the 6th hour, there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, "Eli, lema sabachthani," which is, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" And some of the bystanders, hearing it, said, "This man is calling Elijah." And one of them at once ran and took a sponge, filled it with sour wine, and put it on a reed, and gave it to him to drink. But the others said, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to him and save him." And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice, and yielded up his spirit. And behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom. And the earth shook, and the rocks were split. The tombs were also opened. And many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. When the centurion and those who were with him, keeping watch over Jesus, saw the earthquake and what took place, they were filled with awe and said, "Truly, this was the Son of God." There were also many women there, looking from a distance, who had followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him, among whom were Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. So, for 3 hours, there's darkness. Jesus, when he said, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" This is not like him giving up. It's him quoting scripture, which is Psalm 22:1. People thought he was talking to Elijah, and he was going to ask for Elijah to save him. And the curtain of the temple was torn in two. So in the temple, there is it's one building, and there's one room, which is the first through the door, that's called Holiest Place. And there's a room between that with a curtain in front of it called the Holies. And only one man, the high priest, is allowed inside. So when that temple, which in this temple, if you were going there to meet with God, when that temple, the cloth was torn in two, that means that everybody's allowed to meet God. It's not just the high priest. And many people, their tombs were opened and they were raised from the dead. All right, Jesus is buried. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who was a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him, and Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen shroud and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had cut in the rock. And he rolled a great stone to the entrance of the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there, sitting opposite the tomb. So Joseph was a rich man who gave Jesus a new tomb, and he actually prepared Jesus for burial. The guard at the tomb. The next day, that is, after the day of the preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said, "Sir, we remember how the impostor said, while he was still alive, 'After 3 days I will rise.' Therefore order the tomb to be made secure until that 3rd day, lest his disciples go and steal him away. And tell the people, 'He is risen from the dead,' and the last fraud will be worse than the first." Pilate said to them, "You have a guard of soldiers. Go make it secure as you can." So they went and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone and setting a guard. So the chief priests were like, "We know he said he was going to rise again. So we probably should protect the tomb so the disciples don't steal his body. Alright, that's the end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, and goodbye.